what nullify what I can tighten those.
Go to Google, go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is very that will give a ready-made thing to you, right? But you should be careful.
That's what.
You should be very careful because I will come to that in my next session. How to use the softwares and the gadgets. You should be very careful. ChatGPT everybody is using now, right? So that is not the issue. Do you have lunch after this? Or,
Yes.
So I have one post-lesson session also, post-lunch session, right? Very difficult. Very difficult. Kindly cooperate with me because it's a post-lunch session. And I will try my best not to allow you to slip into the sleep mode, right? I will be as interesting and as juicy as possible. Questionnaire design. See, in social science, just as I told you in the morning, after your homework is done with regard to introduction and review of literature and finalization of the general questions and research questions, you come to the stage of collecting primary data. So if your topic allows you to collect primary data, you collect it out. Otherwise, if your topic is related to secondary data, you need not have to worry about this. But in most of the cases, students go to the field to collect the data. So when you want to collect the primary data from the households, you need to design the questionnaire, right? Designing the questionnaire is not as easy as you think, right? Because you think that title, your name, respondent's name, age, no, that is not the way. There are some intricacies involved in this. So you must understand what are the intricacies involved and what are the pitfalls involved. Because while designing a questionnaire, there are many pitfalls, and how to overcome those pitfalls is important, and that's what I am going to discuss now, which will help you to design the questionnaire in the best possible way, right? Objectives of this session, right? Objectives of questionnaires. By designing the questionnaire, what is the objective? Why you are designing that questionnaire? Okay. Advantages and disadvantages of questionnaire. Design of questionnaires, type of questions used, right? Common problems and pitfalls. So we will discuss these things so that you will be equipped with the skills and knowledge of designing the best possible questionnaire. Right? What is a questionnaire? Fundamental question. What is a questionnaire? Don't look at that. What is a questionnaire?
A tool to collect the data.
A tool to collect the primary data. Right? And it's an instrument basically. It's an instrument or a form. Right? It's a form to collect answers to questions. Right? Collect factual data. What is factual data? Which is the opposite of factual. Hypothetical. So you are not collecting hypothetical data. I collect the height of the participants. These are factual data. Right? So collect factual data, gathers information or measures. You are trying to measure something, right? What is your weight in kilograms? Something like that. A series of written questions or items in a fixed rational order. What is this rational order? Opposite of rational? Irrational. Now example. Suppose you have designed a questionnaire, right? You go to a household. You ask respondent's name, age, caste, sex, whatever, how many acres of land, all those things. Then you ask him how many children will you have. Can you ask or not? Yes. He will say 4. Next question is, are you married? Can you ask like this? No. It is irrational. Yes. So the rational way of asking is first ask whether you are married or not. If he or she says married, then ask how many children. So this is the rational order. I will come to that rational order once again throughout the presentation, right? Hope you are not offended. Sorry. Did you ask a question like this? You are not. Okay. Why using a question? Why should we use a questionnaire? Is again a basic question, right? Why should we use a questionnaire? A well-designed questionnaire gives accurate and relevant information. We want accurate, in the morning, Dadi Bhai was saying, accurate and relevant, dependable data, right? All that, whatever data you should collect should be dependable, usable, right? Doable data. So accurate, relevant information to your research question. So what is the thumb rule here? You have the research questions. By the side of that, you have objectives of your study. Each research question and objective should be related to the questions in your questionnaire. Then only your questionnaire, you can take down this. Otherwise, your questionnaire is defective. Each question, there may be some general questions, generic questions, that's a different story. But major content, central part of your questionnaire should be related to the research questions and objectives of your study. Right? Accurate and relevant information, minimizes potential sources of bias. Research is affected by bias. As I told you, people from Maharashtra have a bias to get welcome from us. Right? There is a bias. So, while asking questions or designing questions, your bias should not enter. Right? If you are doing a gender-based study, right? If you are a female, you will be asking questions which would be favoring the female population. That should not happen. You should be neutral as a researcher. That is what. Should not be biased. Right? Will more likely to be completed. When you have a questionnaire, you can complete the task. Right? 1 to 80 questions, complete the task, get the information or whatever data, come back home. Right? So, if you don't have a questionnaire, you cannot complete your task. So, when you convert your task into a questionnaire, you can complete the task and collect the relevant data. Am I making myself quite clear? Okay. It should be as simple and as focused. Don't ask too many questions. Because while designing a questionnaire, so I have seen researchers, they are very ambitious. 30-page questionnaire, 40-page, huge questionnaires. Right? See, this questionnaire and data collection is important for you as a researcher. But for respondent, it is of no use. Why he or she should spend time with you and give all the information? What is the profit to them? It is not profitable for them. So you should be as precise, as crisp, as short as possible. Right? So don't produce a huge questionnaire. You see what are the research questions, objectives, whether you are getting relevant information to suit your objectives. If you get that, finish it. Advantages of questionnaire, right? Can reach large number. These electronic days, you may be getting some mails to your mailbox, right? Please spare your time for 5 minutes, 10 minutes and complete this schedule, right? We will be thankful to you. So you can reach out. Millions of people or lakhs of people, right? Provide quantifiable answers, right? Answers are quantifiable. You can quantify your answers. Relatively easy to analyze. I will tell you why relatively easy to analyze later, right? But if you have a question, it is very relatively easy to analyze. Disadvantages of a questionnaire, as there are advantages, there are disadvantages. Right? Provides only limited insight into the problem. Limited response allowed by questions. What is this? Why were you sick? This is a question. Can you ask a question like this or not? You can ask. I ate in X hotel yesterday. I ate in my friend's home yesterday. I did not take some medicine yesterday. Any other? Right? 4 options you have given. Suppose that respondent has some different answer. You cannot record it. So you have limited space to get the response. Am I making myself clear? May not the right questions are asked. Sometimes you may miss out the right questions. Right? So examples could be education. What is your education? What will be the answer? If this is your question, you must select some options also. Right? We'll come to that later on. We'll clarify. Need to get it right the first time. Hard to change after missing data. See, suppose you go to your village and you are required to survey 22 households in that village. Complete 22 households and come back. Otherwise, it is very difficult to go back to the same households. I have experienced this, right? So don't miss out. When you are on the field, complete the task and come back, right? Types of questionnaire, right? Face to face, telephone, by post, interview administered, all those things. Email. So there are various types of questionnaires which are being face to face, whatever, right? Okay. Self-administered. What is self-administered? You as a PhD scholar, you will go to the field and collect the data. Self-administered questionnaire, right? What are the advantages? Cheap and easy to administer, right? Preserves confidentiality, completed at respondent's convenience. See, respondent's convenience is important. Which is the best time to go to the village to collect the household data? Huh? Evening? Early morning?
Village is early morning.
Village is early morning. Do you agree with this? If somebody comes to your house early morning, is it okay for you? Huh? Guest in the morning and rain in the evening is always irksome. Right? That is the English adage. Guest in the morning and rain in the evening. So even villagers prefer evening time because they would have completed all their tasks and they would be resting. And if you go in the evening, they will enjoy it. Otherwise, if somebody early 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, somebody knocks at your door, you will close. Right? So morning is not convenient. Whether rural area or urban area. No influence by the interviewer. So, as an interviewer, you are not influenced, you are neutral. Suppose you are sending somebody, I think you will remember, some years back we surveyed one constituency in Hubli Dhawar region, MLA constituency, full census survey. Census survey means there are about 60,000 households.
17,500.
Households.
54,000.
54,000 households. 54, take it 50,000. Into 5, minimum 5 members per household. How many members? 2 lakh? We have that database. So, in that case, it cannot be self-administered. We had hired about 40-45 people respondents, right? So, there was the risk of influence because we were not going on our own and it was not possible also. But in case of PhD, you will go on your own. So, there is no room for any influence. Self-administered questionnaire disadvantages, low response rate. See, it is not mandatory for anybody to respond to, give the response to you, right? They may say no, it's voluntary. Questionnaire, questions can be misunderstood. I will give an example. This experiment is being done in the army or defense forces. 100 soldiers are made to stand like this in a row, right? In the first soldier's ear, somebody will come and give a message. And the message is that after completing your duty at 4 o'clock, take a bicycle, go to market, buy vegetables, while coming back, pick the child from the school and reach home. What is the message? Can you repeat? Somebody?
After completing the work at 4 o'clock, take a bicycle, go to the market, and while coming back, bring a child to the home.
He missed something. So, this experiment is done for 100 soldiers. Imagine you are sitting face to face and you missed something. Right? This is confidentially given in his first soldier's eyes, second soldier, third soldier. They should all give confidentially. It reaches the 100th soldier. By the time as you have distorted, the message gets distorted in different ways. So what will, if you go and ask the 100 soldiers, he will say, after completing, take 2 days rest and come back after some whatever. Message gets distorted. Right? So this is being done in defense forces to keep the correct message going from one step to the other. Because if the major sitting in the headquarters says fire, and finally on the field, if the message goes don't fire, your whole defense exercise is lost. So in order to miss out that, so some kind of a training is given. So in the same fashion, questions can be misunderstood. Whatever you ask, they will understand in a different way, right? No control by the interviewer, time and resource wise. Because you have to go personally, time loss, resource wise, you should keep on moving from pillar to post, right? So these are some of the disadvantages. Interview administered question advantages. participation by illiterate people, right? You train the investigators, so they will train again, go and even if the illiterate people are there, they can participate in the surveys. Clarification of ambiguity, you train the investigators, right? Quick answers. Interview administered questionnaire disadvantages, interview bias, so bias will come, right? So this bias is a dangerous element in research. Needs more resources because you have to pay to the investigators, right? Only short questions possible, especially on telephone. Telephonic interviews are going on now, right? But that is very difficult for sensitive issues. Difficult for sensitive issues. As I said, this Belgaum issue. Maharashtrians will say that Belgaum is for them, Maharashtra will say Belgaum is for sensitive issues, right? Very difficult. Okay. Now the task is, we will start designing a questionnaire, right? You have different subjects. I cannot take each one subject and design a questionnaire. So I have selected some common subject. What is the common subject? Write a study protocol, right? Protocol is risk factors for being beaten by stray dogs. This is our research topic. What is the research topic? Risk of being beaten by stray dogs. Who have the risk of being beaten by these stray dogs? Walkers in the morning, right? Then children. Why? They will make a Aadhaar card and bite.
No, because they may mock the dogs.
Okay. Then
Old age.
they will ask for age group and then bite. It is not that.
Public
Sorry.
Everyone.
Everyone. That is very safe answer. Everyone.
Citizens.
Citizens means what? They will identify citizens and not citizens. We will try to make a questionnaire for this. Is it okay?
Yes.
How should we administer that?
That's what I'm coming now. Right? Stages in designing a questionnaire, stage number 1. Right? So, planning the study. Decide on goals. Right? Identify risk factors for getting beaten by the dogs. Right? Identify them. As you said, citizens, old people, young people, children. You identify. You have this. Know the subject, literature, experts on dog bites. Not in our country, but in Western countries there are experts on dogs. Right? Formulate a hypothesis. Right? What is the hypothesis? Postmen more likely to get bitten by dogs than the normal population. Do you agree with this? Postmen. Because if you know that in some street there are stray dogs which will bite you, you will skip that street. But postman cannot skip. He has to go and deliver. Right? So he has a more risk of getting bitten by the stray dogs. Define information needed to test hypothesis, occupation. So in order to test the hypothesis, you need information on occupation, owning a dog, outdoor activities, attitude toward dogs and things like that. Are you getting the point now? Stages in designing a questionnaire, stage number 2. Determine the study population, know the respondents, occupation, special sensitivities, education, ethnic background, language. Dogs will not know the language, but still you have to, as a researcher, get this information. Questionnaire needs to be adapted to your population, not the opposite. Right? So, as the population is there, you have to adapt the questionnaire. Stages in designing a questionnaire, stage number 3. Design questions, content of the questions. What should be the content of the question? Format of the question. Presentation and layout, that is the easy thing now. Word will tell you how to do it. Right? Coding. This is important and listen to me. Easy to analyze, I said in some initial slide. If you have a questionnaire, it is easy to analyze the data. Data would be easy to analyze because you are going for coding, right? What is that code? So again we will come to education.
Sir, results.
Just go. Sorry. You have this?
Yes.
This time is okay for this? Education. What is the education of household members is the question. So household number 1 is there. His name is Asawat, right? So we want to know the educational status of Asawat. What are the options that can we give now here?
Illiterate, primary, secondary, graduate, postgraduate.
You are reciting like a mantra. Illiterate,
Primary. Secondary. Graduate. Postgraduate.
okay? You agree with her?
Should put the time frame like 0.
No, first we will finish this, let's come to the end. He answers diploma in mechanical engineering.
Yes, secondary.
Huh?
Secondary,
Other-
I guess secondary.
Sir, higher
Huh?
education.
Intermediate, secondary.
Below SSLC.
Higher secondary,
+2, sir.
technical education. He says I am a doctor.
Graduate.
He's a graduate, but there are different varieties of graduates, right? Medical education, or he or she says she is a nurse, right? So there are varieties of options. So you must exhaust the varieties. All options should be exhausted. Are you getting the point? As a researcher, you must have an exhaustive list. Let us for the time being assume that this is the exhaustive list, right? Now I am talking about coding. Now you collect the data for 500 households, and 500 into 5, 2,500 individuals. So educational status of 2,500 individuals data is with you, right? You are using SPSS, right? SPSS will not understand illiterate, primary, secondary, higher secondary, graduate, it will not understand. It will understand only the numeric fields, not character fields, right? So you must, this is the character field, right? We must convert this into a numeric field. How can we convert this? We will give codes to this, right? Illiterate is 1, primary 2, secondary 3, higher secondary 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you may go, right? No, I will go there. So, while entering the data, there is a system in SPSS. I think you have class on SPSS for this? No? Why teach? They teach SPSS. They will also teach how to enter the data. I think usually what we used to do is we used to enter the data in Excel and take that Excel file to the SPSS, right? So in that you have an option, define data or data variable, something like that, right? So in that, sorry, value. So illiterate is defined as 1 in the data set base, right? If you say 1, SPSS will understand that it is illiterate, right? So these codes are given to the SPSS, not this character fields, right? So if you are coding your answers, and this coding will have to be done from question number 1 to question number n, right? Then only easy for you to analyze the data. Am I making myself clear? Right? So that is how you should design the questionnaire. For each answer there are different options. For different options you are giving the codes, right? Pilot and refine. So what is the pilot? When we were here, we were doing huge surveys, we used to pilot. Suppose you have produced a questionnaire which is final from your end, right? And as a researchers, we think that we are the most intelligent people on this earth. There is nobody who is more intelligent on this earth because we are researchers. We read books, we know this, we know that. We are very intelligent. So you will understand when you have the first version of your question and go to the field, you will understand how many mistakes you have done based on the responses, right? I will give an example. One person completed the PhD in agriculture on sugar crops, right? And he was awarded PhD and he was passing through Bijapur district. He stops his car and enters the field where a farmer is working. Small plants are there in this farm. This PhD fellow, researcher, intelligent fellow enters and says, talks to the farmer, what are you doing? Yeah, we are doing some agricultural activities. He says, see, while planting the sugarcane plants, he takes out a scale or something like that. The distance should be between two plants should be this, then only you can get better yield of the sugar. You have done a faulty job, you will not get better yield. The farmer says, sir, this is not sugarcane plant, this is a jowar plant. Right? So this is the kind of mistake that we do. As a researcher, don't think that you are the most intelligent person. There are many intelligent persons on the earth, on the field, and farmers are the most intelligent people on this earth. They know everything, right? So you should be very careful. So that is the reason we should pilot the questionnaire. So after you think that you have done the questionnaire from your side, final one, take 10 copies of the questionnaire, go to the whatever kind of area you want to visit, go to 10 households, try to fill up the questionnaire and mark the mistakes then and there only. I am sure about 25 to 30 mistakes will be there in your question. Right? Mark those mistakes, come back, sit on your desk, rectify those mistakes and then finalize the question. So that is pilot and refine the questionnaire. Are you getting the point? What makes a well-designed questionnaire? It should be good in appearance, right? Easy on the eye, short and simple. I told you short and simple. Keep it simple. Don't have 80-page, 90-page questionnaire, right? Relevant and logical. Should be relevant to your questionnaires or objectives, right? High on response rate. You should design a questionnaire in such a way that respondents find it interesting to respond to you, right? Easy data summarization and analyzation. Easy data summarization and analysis, right? That should be there. Basic rules on first page, return address, study title in bold, right? On all pages, identifying mark, unique identifier. Suppose what is this? In a family, you ask how many members are there in the family. There are 8 members. First is Basuraj, whatever, Seema, Kumar, something like that. So one code is given to that Basuraj. If you have any other information relating to that Basuraj on the second or third or fourth page, same code has to be followed. So that you will come to know that relevant information is related to this code called Basuraj. That is what. Numbers are numbered items. All questions need to be numbered because while entering also in the SPSS, question numbers are required. Directions in bold. What is this direction? Suppose we had a study on fertility of women in the age group of 15 to 45 or 50, whatever, right? Suppose we ask a question, are there any 15 to 45 aged lady in your home? If the answer is no, there was a direction that go to section number 3 instead of section 2, which is relevant to this lady, because that lady doesn't exist there, right? So that is the direction given. Self-attached envelope. Sometimes if you lose the questionnaire, there should be some self-attached envelope attached to it, because somebody will post it back to you, right? Otherwise, you will lose it. Question order, decide on order of items, easy versus difficult. Which one will you put first? Easy questions first, right? Because why difficult actually? General versus particular, which one will you put first? General first, then particular. Factual and abstract, right? Where to place sensitive questions? Beware of ordering effects. See, we had difficulty here. We were trying to understand morbidity and mortality data, right? What is morbidity?
Chance of getting diseases. Chance of getting
Disease, right? Sickness, morbid condition, sickness, right? Sickness and mortality, death, right? So if somebody comes to your home in the morning and asks you who died in your home in the last 1 month, what will you do? Huh? You will slap on that face, right? So it's a sensitive question. Asking deaths in the family is a sensitive question. So put it in the last, after you gain some confidence with the respondent. You must gain the confidence of the respondent first, then he will start coming out. And at the end, that too very politely, you should ask some sensitive questions like mortality or other things. Are you getting it? Question order 2, group questions by